Hello and welcome. My name is Bradley Hunter, RVP at Innovaccer, and today I'm really excited to welcome you because we have an exciting announcement for you. Now, a little background before we jump in. The last 11 years I spent at Class Research, and I had a front row seat to how health systems make decisions in the healthcare technology market. And one of the things that I saw in there was how companies acquire other companies. And every once in a while, there's an acquisition where you sit up and you say, I'd like to know a little bit more about that one. And that's what we have for you today. So we'd like to formally announce that Innovaccer is acquiring CaduceusHealth. And I'm joined today by two people that can talk to us about that and what this really means for the market and for you as an individual. So I'm joined today by Jim Bonomo, CEO of CaduceusHealth, and Patrick Leonpacher, who is our SVP of Product Flow. And we're really excited to talk with you both today. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Big day. Excited to be here.
Thanks, Bradley. Excited as well.
Let's start here. How did this all come about? Because exciting things happen, but there's always a reason that they happen.
Yeah, we were chatting about this earlier, and I think it was just a meeting of the minds. I mean, we've tried some different AI strategies, if you will, over the last 2 years. And, you know, the one thing that kept coming back to us was all the AI companies that I get emails from every day, by the way, would ask us, you know, to plug into our data. And I'm like, well, half the problem is we need other data. We don't just need our data. If we already know what we're doing with our data. And so a big differentiator with Innovaccer was the fact that they had all the data, right? And we could really start going what I always call like siloed data sets into a cloud that kind of sat over all of them and really just go and pinpoint, agentify exactly what pieces we needed from each silo. And Innovaccer had all that in one spot. And so when I first met Abhinav and we started talking, kind of the light bulb went off. I said, whoa. These guys have the data and we have the process. Let's put those two things together. What I'm envisioning is that our same team that we have out there today that has developed all these processes can do 100 times the volume that we're doing today and do it at scale and do it at the same propensity of high caliber execution on getting payments at a much higher level. And that's really what I hope to get out of this relationship.
Super excited, Jim, and welcome to the team. Looking forward to partnering a best-in-class service with a best-in-class technology stack. And you've been in RCM services for how long?
Too long, actually, 30 years. I mean, I want to date myself, but when we started this out, there was barely internet. And yeah, this is not some kind of RCM company that private equity back started last week. We've spent 30 years really developing the process. But when I first started this, saw a really fragmented market, no technology. I mean, it was basically, you know, a glorified typewriter banging out 1500s, and God, you hoped you got the modifier right when it went in the mail. So a lot of stamp licking and not a lot of technology. You know, what we really tried to do back then was wick off all of that work. That was all that administrative work, but the reality is, it wasn't very easy. I mean, it was just heads down work, and no technology enabled us to do anything any much better than anybody else.
What is exciting to me is to think about what customers are really doing with you is outsourcing outcomes. And the longevity you've had in the business highlights the trust that these customers have placed in you and your business.
Yes, we've kind of prided ourselves on that over the years, not promising more than we could deliver, being methodical about how we went to market, and then slowly developing what we call our LEAP process, right? So we've kind of developed our own algorithms of how to process a claim, and we've really tried to condense that whole process into what we call LEAP, which is leading edge acceleration process, down to a 60-day window, right? So we're totally focused on making sure that whatever is wrong with that claim is going to get fixed before it actually leaves the system. And so what we've been able to do is really drive those numbers into the mid-90s of claims settled in that 60-day window. And what that really does is reduce your overall denial rate, right? If you're actually focusing all your energy on getting something paid in those first 60 days, what actually ages out is pretty small, like 4 or 5% is actually getting past that first 60-day window. But what it's done is kind of re-engineer how we looked at revenue cycle and how to really hone in on what I call product-specific versus practice-specific operations.
I'm excited about is, again, just the processes you guys have developed over 30 years of being in business, and pairing it with best-in-class technology from Innovaccer, and the opportunity for us to bring these together to bear for the market creates a really exciting dynamic. I was speaking with a CFO of a large health system, and they said AI is everywhere but the bottom line. And it's because there are a lot of point solutions in the market today promising outcomes when they're focused on one specific part of the RCM workflow. And you just highlighted it. It's an ecosystem effect of connected processes, connected people, and connected technology that I think Innovaccer and Caduceus can bring together in the market.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the differentiator. Like I said before, we've worked with some other AI companies that are very fragmented in their solution. I mean, and the biggest thing that I keep coming back to is they're using our data. When I first met Abhinav and we started talking about Innovaccer and I really looked into it, the fact that Innovaccer's already agentified the data stream from all across those silos enables us to actually go in and pull just the pieces that we need very quickly. I mean, our biggest challenge has always been the pieces of information that we can't get to, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what EMR they're in, do we have access to it, how do we get that diagnosis code? If it's a different registration system, you know, where does that sit? What system was that in? Did they have an authorization number somewhere that we needed? I mean, you're talking about these tiny little pieces of data sitting all over the spectrum, and Innovaccer's ability to put a spot on where that data resides every time has enabled us to really perfect our LEAP process.
It's fantastic. And when I think about technology sort of helping the revenue cycle management process, pairing it with people to create best-in-class outcomes for our customers, I start to think about those high-touch areas to streamline those workflows associated with revenue cycle. So I start to think about prior authorization, I think about autonomous coding, I think about claims and denials and appeals management. Where in that sort of spectrum are you most excited about where we're going to see some of the biggest gains in the market?
I'd say all across that whole spectrum. I mean, as you know, Caduceus pretty much provides back-end services throughout that whole spectrum. So from coding to credentialing, claims management, registration, and you know, the fact that we can pull data regardless of what piece of that pipe we're looking at is the differentiator, right? And our teams can excel at a much faster pace by utilizing that data, being able to kind of surgically go in, pull what we need, and leave the rest alone. I mean, that's going to make a world of difference. I was actually making some notes the other day, and you know, a lot of what happens in revenue cycle is cycling. I mean, that's why they call it revenue cycling. And you know, what we've seen, and we've compared this to other vendors, like we'll go in and we'll look at a practice and we'll see, you know, how are they operating on the spectrum of our KPIs. And one of the things we've always seen and noticed is that these other teams are not as productive as a highly trained Caduceus team going in to actually perform that function. And a lot of it is not the fact that they just don't know what they're doing. There's two pieces to it. There's the engineering, where I talk about product specific versus practice specific. But when you go in and you actually see people doing things all throughout the pipe, like in 1 minute they're working on a registration problem, the next minute they're working on a denial problem, the next minute they're trying to schedule a patient. And the reality is you're just putting out fires. You're never getting ahead of the denial wave in that kind of setting. And so when I talk about product specific versus practice specific, we are actually setting our teams up to only focus on certain sections of that pipe. And Innovaccer makes that very easy, because it doesn't matter where I sit in that pipe. we can pull that data from wherever it sits. It's just sitting in the Innovaccer cloud. If it's a registration issue that we need, we're going to pull that from here. If it was a pre-registration issue that Innovaccer grabbed when that patient first called the practice to schedule an appointment, we can grab that too. If it's a diagnosis, we're already dialed into your EMR, so we know exactly what was transpiring during that visit, so we're going to pull that. So really, no matter where you sit, I mean, I think one of the biggest areas that, and we haven't touched on this yet, but one of the biggest pain points in this whole industry, beyond coding, which is one, is credentialing, which is, you know, the future of where I want to go next. I think we're starting to tackle coding now. Credentialing will definitely get there.
You talk a lot about this connected data, and Innovaccer's been bringing together data across the healthcare ecosystem for many years, solving it for value-based care customers for a long time. We're now bringing that connected data to Flow, which is our revenue cycle endeavors. And when I think about pairing this with services, I think about these outcomes, right? And when we can pair best-in-class technology with those services, it's all about getting customers paid. The other side of what I would say here is lots of failed AI projects in the market right now, right? Countless headlines, though, where people are spending money trying to chase the next AI endeavor. And I think what they're missing is that connected ecosystem effect in revenue cycle management, right? You can't be just prior auth. You can't be just autonomous coding. You can't be just denials. It's really what Innovaccer calls this outcome intelligence loop. When we can see those payer behavior patterns and effectuate change across that connected ecosystem with our connected data layer, it allows us to either better create autonomy in actions or to create better human-in-the-loop insights, which now, powered with your team, Jim, I'm really excited about the outcomes we're going to drive together in the market. Fantastic.
Well, it's going to be really exciting. The number of AI agents that I've heard about in the market is multitudinous, and I don't know how many of them actually make a difference. So how is this going to make a difference for a practice, and what's it going to look like in the product for customers?
Sure. Well, I think AI is the future of revenue cycle management. It's going to play a role. It's not at the expense of humans in the loop. I think it's best classified as an AI assistant that can handle the tedious nature of repeatable tasks and can continue to evolve with your practices to, again, create those financial outcomes. Where I think it has the biggest opportunity right now is across our prior auth autonomy, autonomous coding, and certainly our claims and denials management are areas ripe for AI assistance right now.
So Patrick, talk to me for a minute about the competition, because there's a lot out there. What makes Flow different?
Sure. And I see it in two ways, two very important ways. Certainly there are a lot of point vendors out there. Innovaccer's approach is not point solutions. We don't believe you can drive the kind of outcomes needed by health systems and providers today by focused on just one aspect. It's an ecosystem effect that revenue cycle is. It is a cycle. It's a flow of capabilities that has to come to bear to produce outcomes. So again, the first step I would say is point solutions we don't think will get the job done. You've really got to be thinking about revenue cycle management from its totality. And then I would say there are other vendors out there that are promising that we can do this for all industries across America and apply the same AI models. Innovaccer is healthcare specific. We were born in healthcare and built this AI specific to the healthcare industry, and we think that's important. Our agents are driving measurable outcomes compared to, I'll call it off-the-shelf LLMs, and it's that focus that we think creates a meaningful difference when paired with the ecosystem of data that we can connect to drive the outcomes in revenue cycle management.
Yeah, having that healthcare specific knowledge, it's really important in healthcare. I don't think that can be overstated and you're like, yeah, it's good. No, it's a really important thing.
I really believe that, and I think this is where we again hear a lot of AI projects in healthcare not measuring up to the ROIs that they promise. Lots of failed initiatives, lots of failed investments, lots of dollars that are wanting for outcomes and not producing those outcomes. And Innovaccer is all about those outcomes. And with Caduceus in the mix now, we're committing to those outcomes through our technology and services approach together.
What about a physician group that has tried AI and it didn't go very well? So they've been burned, they have some road rash, some battle scars, and they're like, it feels like it's just the same.
Sure. So I heard this from a CFO at a healthcare system that said AI is everywhere but the bottom line. And I think what that comes from is point solutions trying to solve big scale problems with context of just one step in this connected ecosystem of the revenue cycle management. Innovaccer is all about that ecosystem, connected data across our Gravity platform. It's the context that matters. You can't solve problems with visibility in one small step of the world when it takes the connected ecosystem to ultimately be able to understand what's happening across your claims and denials. What that highlights to you is payer behavior patterns. Shifting those payer behavior patterns left with the Innovaccer technology allows us to make more informed prior auth decisions. So determining medical necessity when we're submitting to a payer and understanding those historical patterns gives us better outcomes to ultimately understand what data is necessary to submit against those. Coding cases and understanding payer reimbursement patterns to make better informed decisions around any autonomous coding or human in the loop coding that we're recommending. And then certainly claims and denials management. With that connected ecosystem, we can make the best judgments with our AI powered capabilities, whether they are performing autonomously under strict compliance protocols, or whether we're providing insights to a human in the loop.
Okay, so let's double click on this human in the loop. Because AI is so fast and so quick, it can process a claim in seconds, right? It just that fast. So if AI is that fast, why do we still need humans?
So I think it's really accountability, and I look at it like this. I mean, AI can do the simple things, right? And it can do them fast. But when you're talking, and we built this business on the more difficult stuff, right? So we're not doing the easy tasks that have been offshored. And in fact, I think a lot of the AI that's coming will wipe out offshore companies faster than they'll wipe out onshore companies, right? Because a lot of the simple transaction stuff is being done offshore. And so AI can do that all day. So you talk about the triage 1, 2, 3 coming in, AI's kicking that stuff out, easy E&M coding, whatever it's doing. But the more difficult cases and the more difficult transactions still need that oversight. They need that accountability. You're not going to have AI call a doctor and ask him about 3 or 4 diagnoses that just got put on in the last record that they charted. You definitely want some human interface before that call goes out. Somebody really looking at what the exception report is that's coming out of the machine and why is that kicking out for a human to really look at it. So it's really still accountability, making sure that we're running at a top performing speed, but it's still the 20% that is going to error out, it's going to exception out on the really hard stuff. And we built our business on that, right? Like if I'm saying if it can be done simply, then AI should be doing that. But it's really that last 20%, and it's not just coding. I mean, you're talking about difficult denials, you're talking about difficult registration, you're talking about complex insurance coverage issues that just still need that kind of geographic expertise. You can't just have somebody sitting anywhere trying to figure that out, especially offshore. This is the stuff that's more local, that really needs a human eye on it to really make the call.
I like to think compliance, audit, accountability, and experience, just as you said, right? AI is fantastic, but there are exceptions. There's confidence intervals that we're operating in that, again, every step of the Innovaccer technology is auditable. But what that means is we run into situations where we know the technology is saying it falls below a threshold of confidence. Now you've got a decision to make. How are we going to resolve that? Today we might flag that for a customer to their revenue cycle teams. What I'm really excited about with Caduceus is using all of your experience, all of your accountability, and now saying to our customers, this technology plus services approach with, again, all of the experience that Jim's team brings to bear, these are the outcomes that Innovaccer and Caduceus can promise to the market together and make meaningful impact.
And there's a lot behind that. I mean, I look at it, the Caduceus team, that's 300 experts that are onshore. They're not offshore, they're geographically located. We've spent a lot of time and a lot of investment in QA and training, and it's constant too, where every day we have a QA team and a training team sitting over our coding team, sitting over our denial team, making sure that they are executing at a super high level. And that's where we're coming in and working exceptions.
When I think about the experience that Innovaccer over 12 years in business building our AI technology and now infusing it with the kind of experience that Jim's team has, our AI is only going to get that much better. Our AI plus Jim's team and their experience together, this is meaningful difference in the market. This is healthcare specific in the market. Context is everything. Together, we're going to be driving significant healthcare outcomes for revenue cycle management.
Because one thing that I've seen in healthcare is when you pair great technology with real services that know what they're doing, that's a magical combination. So I'm really excited to see what you guys do together.
Yeah, we're excited too.
When we think about all the failed AI projects that we hear about in the market, the opportunity to leverage the experience of Jim's team plus the Innovaccer team as a way to, why go at it alone? Why, when there's an opportunity to take the Innovaccer tech stack and Jim's services team brought together to commit to those outcomes that your team is ultimately looking for, why go after a point solution when we can bring this together?
Right, and I think another problem with the point solution is, yes, you're only solving for that point, but do you really have the onboard expertise to actually deploy this and utilize it, right? I mean, that's one of the other areas that I've seen some of our clients go out and experiment with AI. The problem that you have is it's kind of a do-it-yourself thing. It's not coming with the team and the AI. And they go out and they deploy it. Well, now you're actually looking for your own team to run AI. And I can tell you this, it's out there that AI is there to replace them. So how enthusiastic are they actually going to be to deploy AI that their CFO is telling them to now use? And the fact that it's really only solving one small piece of their business, right? So you actually get the AI expertise and the staffing expertise when you call us in to do this. It's not just like a do-it-yourself AI project that's going to die on the vine because you don't have the support infrastructure to actually deploy it and make it work.
All right, so let's get down to brass tacks here. So, hypothetical situation. We have a 50-physician multi-specialty practice, and they're clearly running RCM, right? They'll have a team that's doing that, but they need to become more efficient.
So what we've done over the last 30 years is really define what is the engineering behind how you actually can work claims and cycle them efficiently. And again, I come back to my analogy where I talk about a product-specific engineering or practice-specific. And what we usually see when we come into these situations is a practice-specific setup where nobody is focused on the product of claim cycling. Basically, you've got people working from the front-end registration problem to the middle of diagnosis problem to denials, right? And we've seen this. Like, we'll go in and we'll pull a data set out of a practice very similar size, and we'll look at how efficient those people really have been in working those claims, right? So if you're popping from the front to the middle to the back and back again and then answering phones in between, you're going to have an efficiency rate of about 30%. When we come in and we layer over our technology, our methodology, we're going to re-engineer how that actually works. Whether we're doing it inception to collection or you're keeping your own people, we're going to keep them focused on where they need to be so they become experts in their product. So wherever they're operating in that pipe, they're going to start to get their efficiency rate into the 70%, high 80s, 90% eventually efficiency of what they're actually doing, because they're seeing the same thing over and over. They're getting repetitive. We're making sure that the AI is assisting them in what they're doing. And that's how you really get out ahead of the denial wave. There's no other way. Otherwise, you're putting out fires all day long. And with Innovaccer, we've been able to kind of make sure that we're getting that data into the right place at the right time for those people to actually focus on what their product specific area actually is.
So in reality, would the life of a person in this back office go from, we'll just say, crazy hectic busy all day, every day, to not crazy hectic busy?
Yeah, like what we're trying to do in any practice that you'll see today is probably overbooked, overstretched, overstaffed. Sarah didn't show up, so no one's covering the phone. And yeah, so once you get into a more systemic routine, we are going to wick off all of those pieces of the puzzle that are making your practice crazy every day. And that's the whole solution, right? And when I say it, it's not an all or nothing thing. So there are many clients that we cover from what I call inception to collection, where they're literally just cycling the patient at registration. We take it over. But we have a lot of clients who are dialing in, doing their own coding, doing their own credentialing, doing their own denial work. But we're helping them stay focused on that area of the pipe with our analytics and our transparency that shows them how efficient their people are actually being. And how do we maintain that? Because it's a lot of information back to the practice and back to the management on what's the efficiency rate of those people. That's really what it boils down to. How efficient are those people? How are they operating? And are they actually happy in what they're doing? I mean, I can go into a whole nother riff about environmental ceiling of trying to hire the right people, put them in the right seats, and then putting them in like a back office with like high, cubicles and bad air conditioning, and it smells like mold. And I'm like, you are never going to get out of this by thinking you're going to get people to come operate at a high level in this environment. And so, that's what we're really pursuing. That's what, what I see as the next generation of what we're able to do with Innovaccer, because sitting over that data of that practice, I don't care what they're in, right? They could be in any of the EMRs on the market today. We can actually go in and help them with sitting over with the flow and Innovaccer operating, transcendentally over them as an operating system.
Jim's team has been selling outcomes as part of a service that they perform. I'm most excited about the Innovaccer technology paired with that to drive those outcomes even higher. Innovaccer is all about those outcomes. When I think across the industry, there's 12% denials, and it's been at 12% for many, many years, maybe decades. And that's in the face of all these technology vendors that are already out there promising solutions to effectuate denials, and we still see those 12% denial patterns. When I think about the Innovaccer technology coming to bear with the services, I think about meaningful outcomes, and certainly that looks like reduced denials. But when I think about prior auths and this 50 physician practice, that their core business is delivering healthcare, but there's all this work to go get them paid. At the end of the day, I think about prior auths and do they have any procedures that end up getting rescheduled because those prior auths weren't completed in time? When I think about the meaningful revenue impact of a missed surgical visit or a missed appointment time simply because of administrative work that we could have automated for them, I think opportunity for Innovaccer and Caduceus to come to bear. When I think about autonomous coding, I think about how do I see those payer behavior patterns that maybe your most experienced RCM person in your practice understands some of that and is trying to impart some of that knowledge, but how, as inevitably you have staff turnover, are you taking that sort of best experience and applying it on every future claim and case that you're submitting? That's the opportunity for that Innovaccer stack with the services component to drive out meaningful outcomes for our practices. And so I think about this from a outsourcing outcomes, and what better partnership than Caduceus and Innovaccer to help those providers and practices make a meaningful difference in helping them get paid and drive those revenue cycle outcomes.
So 2 to 3 years from now, what does that look like for a physician group? Jim, we'll start with you, then Patrick.
So I see a lot calmer state of things, affairs inside your office. I see where we've been able to agentify your credentialing, your coding. You're primarily focused on front-end patient cycling, wicking off all the interference that happens in the back with trying to get that claim denied. Like evening the playing field with, we've been going through this process with insurance companies for the last 30 years, and I always felt like I was bringing a knife to a gunfight with them. And I think this really enables us finally to level the playing field, right? Where we can really identify for that practice what's going to be denied, what's going to be paid, pretty much take most of that process off of their plate, agentify it with us operating pretty much invisibly in the cloud above them.
When I think into the future here, I think about outcomes that provider groups can count on. And what that means is faster time to revenue, less administrative headache, and ultimately better financial outcomes for those practices. We see payer behavior patterns getting slightly more aggressive, more requirements on the providers, a bigger administrative burden, and ultimately trying to prove what is necessary to ultimately get you paid. And healthcare, different than a lot of other industries in America, you perform the service and sort of cross your fingers and hope you get paid. When I think about the opportunity for Innovaccer and Caduceus to come to market to ultimately help our provider groups by committing to those financial outcomes, that's the opportunity that I see. Maybe the only other thing I would say is hopefully not wasted dollars trying to go at it alone. AI, when this is not your core business is delivering healthcare, trying to go it alone and invest in point solution AI projects really means a lot of spend trying to chase that next big wave. By leveraging the Innovaccer and Caduceus relationship, we really provide an outcome-based service that I think our provider groups can count on and ultimately see the benefit of that AI coming to bear with again, ultimately competitive, outcome-driven approach that we bring to market.
Well, you got me excited about the opportunity. We're going to bend the cost curve, and that's really exciting.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Patrick, quick question for you. Feels like this is a little bit more than just technology. Like this is something that doesn't really exist in the market yet. So maybe creating a new category would be a good way to say it.
It is. Innovaccer is building what we consider a new category, administrative autonomy. What administrative autonomy means to us is technology and services coming to bear to create autonomy for all players in the loop. For providers, that looks like getting back to patient care, having the autonomy of the administrative burden to really focus on our patients. For our care team, not being bogged down with all of the administrative documentation requirements of everything that they need to go and do in order to get reimbursed. And then bringing the technology to bear to create some of that administrative autonomy against the tasks required. There's a real opportunity here for us to take technology and services, focus on the necessary procedural aspects of healthcare to help our provider groups get paid. That's administrative autonomy.
All right, final question. And you have to give me the real human answer and not the business answer. Okay, and this is on record, so we'll be able to check this after. what does this mean for the real people? And when I say the real people, are physicians who are doing this really important work. What does this mean for them?
You know, I think it would be nice if they could really get back to focusing on that moment with the patient again. You know, every time I talk to one of our physicians, you know, the administrative burden that they are under and the duress and trying to get all of their work done that is not even clinical, to help get a bill out the door. I mean, closing encounters and all the stress that they're under. I mean, we're truly, really trying to wick that off. And that's really when I first started Caduceus, I mean, the whole idea was to create a company that took all that administrative, non-clinical burden off of the physician. And I think like we actually may have the opportunity with Innovaccer to achieve that in the coming years.
When I think about what we're really trying to do here, it's ultimately allowing providers to get back to focusing on their patients. No one gets into healthcare to ultimately submit claims and deal with the administrative burden of the healthcare ecosystem. And when I think about why I do this, it's that I believe in our technology and our services can come to bear together to help providers do that. And so we're helping those providers be able to focus on their patients. At the end of the day, all of us are wanting to see that provider-patient relationship nurtured. We can take this administrative burden off of our provider groups and ultimately make meaningful impact in the market. I get really excited about that opportunity.
Well, thank you for the human answers. And gentlemen, thank you for being with me today. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Exciting things to come.
Absolutely.
Indeed.